Day all. I'm here initiating, I guess we'll call it phase one of bringing this vehicle back to the road. As I had made a previous video about this vehicle, which came in by possession just about a year ago. The previous video that I made of this, this vehicle was sitting out in a field for approximately 18 years after it was brought back from the the Midwest, I guess. No, what we call Midwest? Yeah. Well, Utah specifically is where it spent a good part of its life. Ended up in Florida and then up the east here. So up here in New England. But so this vehicle belonged to a friend of mine's brother who had passed away a few years back, and his nephew ended up with it. Well, his brother's son, and it was just sitting approximately about 18 years or so, and the weather, it was just starting to kill it. So when he had parked it, it was extreme. Well, from what my friend told me, that was super clean, and even though it spent 18 years outside, it still is in very savable condition. But anyhow, so phase one here will be, as I said previously, I had got the engine started, which is a 464 barrel, which just didn't take any time. I was able to prime up the oil pump. I figured to get some oil pressure up in there because it hadn't been running for a few years. Well, it hadn't obviously been running for quite a few years. So I figured I'd give it a chance by at least pumping up and getting the oil pressure up before attempting to start it, which I was very surprised within a matter of a few minutes after doing all that. I think it took about 10 minutes and she fired up and ran beautifully. But so for me to get this thing rocking and rolling here, because the shifter would not come out of park, so I tried disassembling it down at the tranny, figuring that's what it was. But long of the short, the column shifter itself was jammed because some other joker was in there and must have tried to do some work to it before. I'll point it out after. But what I found to make this job easy, because I first attempted to take it apart without taking the as you see, the master cylinder and power booster out of there, which it's nearly impossible to get to those bolts back here behind. You can see where the opening is. There's a plate there that should have 4, but I only had 3 bolts in mine. But it's nearly impossible to get at it with any of that, with the power booster in the way. And I was like, I'm not gonna spend hours when I could just spend, less than that to take all that apart to make it easy to get at everything, and then even try to get to the steering knuckle down there. You see the spline shaft. But anyways, I first started by removing the windshield washer box. Not windshield washer reservoir, which was these 2 bolts, that bolt there and that one there. And here was the plug for the washer motor that had to be disconnected, and there was a hose for the that went from the tank to the firewall here, where there's that right there. So that had to take off. And then next, before I'd done that, I had sprayed down all the bolts that held the booster and held the master cylinder in. So I was able to soak these, and I put MAP gas. I put some heat to them. I waited a day before I went there, and I soaked them again before I went to try it. And I was able to heat them up and get them to spin and come out without destroying the lines. They are a little rusted up, so I while I'm right there, I'll make up a couple of new lines, because the rest of them don't look so bad. And when I get it up on a lift, I'll look at the rest of the brake lines and decide how much I'll get into. But anyway, so then, as I said, I soaked, and I was able to get those removed, so I was able to take the master cylinder off of the booster. And then I was able to remove the booster. You can see there's 4 bolts, 4 nuts that held it into that bracket. And, excuse me, and I did loosen up excuse me, the clamp, I mean the bolt that was holding it on, the single 9/6 half-inch 12-point that was holding the rag joint onto that shaft. And then there was on the shaft, on the column itself, I had to remove the shift rod, and yeah, and here was the bolts. There was just the 3 that held this gasket up against the firewall that had to be taken off. And right around here, there was a clamp that had I believe that was a 9/16 nut that I had to remove. It was a C clamp that went around there to keep that in position. It kept the whole, that keeps the whole column from twisting. So before I could remove the power booster after taking those 4 nuts off, I had to go under the dashboard here and came, as you can see, the brake pedal. There's a, right here, right up there, that's where a nut went through that held the power booster rod onto the brake pedal. That had to be removed. And then while I was in there, there was a neutral safety switch, 2 5/16 nuts, tiny little ones, that attached that to the bottom of the column, which had to be removed. And also there was this harness here obviously had to be unplugged, but some joker didn't bother unplugging. He just cut all the wires instead of pulling that apart, which I don't know. Anyhow, so after I got all that loosened up, I came and there was a cover over here I took off to be able to access these 2 bolts here, which I just loosened them all so it could drop. So when I came over here, I had a buddy of mine stay in there and hold on to that while I came and took a pry bar and was able to push that rag joint off of that steering shaft and loosen that up. And then I came inside, took the bolts the rest of the way off, and was able to slide the column right and out. So I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult, but like I say, once you get that power booster and master cylinder out of the way. So yeah, I put the nuts back on, but here are the 4 nuts that held it onto that bracket, and then that bolt went through here onto the brake pedal, which slid out and was really easy to do. Yeah, here's the windshield washer reservoir. Yeah, see, all you had to do is just loosen them and you can slide it up and off. And then there's the master cylinder, which I will be replacing, but I was happy not to twist the lines off of it. And then here is the column. Yeah, see, that wasn't able to spin. You can see all the play that's in there. As I said, some joker was in here, attempted to do some sort of repair. And yeah, they tried to weld this tab together, which activates the neutral safety switch, which was on there. So all of that will be replaced. I'll get a new gasket there. The rag joint looks like it's in really good condition, so I'll probably just remove it before I send it out. But the outfit I decided to use is an outfit called DRB Machine and Fab. I'll leave a link to this guy. His specialty is 73 through 79 Ford F100, 250 and 350 columns. He also does later models too, early model, late model, so in the 90s and stuff. But a really nice gentleman. You send him a message and within an hour he gets back to you. And the guy doesn't like messaging. Best thing to do is to call the guy right on the telephone and speak with him personally. Very personal guy, and that's the way he likes to do business, by talking, which is I'm all about that and not instant messages. But anyhow, so I did get it removed. He's going to call me tomorrow, and then I'll figure out the shipping and what I have to send along with it so he can repair that column. So, yeah, looking forward to getting this together. So once I get that column back, it's obvious it's going to be no problem to get it back in there. And yeah, so this is, yeah, I don't even know how many miles are on this vehicle. Let's see. What do I got? It says 122, so that's probably accurate. So yeah, it's got the gauges and stuff in there, but I did have some of the electrical was working. Yeah, see, there's the AC, the AM radio, but yeah, that's that key in the right there. But yeah, looking forward to getting this truck back together. But anyhow, I just wanted to touch on that. Yeah, see the F-350 Super Camper. Love that. Anyhow, that's about it. So I just wanted to update that I am progressing and moving forward on this. So thank you all for listening, and have yourself a great day.